Welcome to the introduction of functions. Well, if you want to know what exactly is a function, in real life example, you can just treat it like a production process in a factory. So in a production process, you need some resources to utilize, and then you run through the process, and then in the end, you got an output. A product is produced. And so it's the same way that we are going to think in functions. We'll have an input, and then we go through the function, and then we'll get an output. And so this is the process that we are going to go through. Input is the x values, function, and this is called f of x. We denote function as f of x. And then we are going to the final stage, which is output, and that's the y values or f of x values. And so function, we can write it as like this. It can be f of x, it can be g of x, h of x, or really any values or any alphabets really. You can even put I love maths of x. It's possible. It's actually possible. It's just that you need to repeat after and after again if you want to recall the function back. So this is actually the exact definition of a function. So it is a mapping where every element of the domain, the x values, is mapped onto exactly one element of the range y values. So what does it mean? Now I'm going to show you what is a mapping. So this is an example of a mapping. This is another example of a mapping. The whole diagram is a type of mapping. So this, by the way, this is another way of writing function. It means f maps x onto 2x minus 5. In this case, f maps x onto x squared. Yeah, it's another way of writing functions. And you can see here, this is input and this is our output, f of x and x. The range of x that we are going to select is called the domain. And the range of output that we are going to produce is called the range. We will talk specifically about that in the next video. But here's the main thing to define a function. One input will only lead to one output. So that's this. One input leads to one output. One input, one output, one input, one output, and so on. And so that's here. One input, one output, one input, one output. Although they are the same output, but it is still one input, one output. Basically, that defines the functions already. So one input, one output, one input, one output. Yeah, it's like that. And actually, there are 4 types of mapping. So this case, this is called one-to-one mapping. So it means one input leads to one output, but no other inputs can replicate the same output. So let's say x equal to 2, you can't produce the y value as y if x equal to negative 2 already produced y equal to 9. So that's impossible. And so an example of that is a linear function, really. So you can see one x value only produces one y value, but no other x value can produce the same y value. So that is what it means. And for this is actually called many-to-one mapping. It means many inputs leads to one same output. So for example here, negative 1 and 1, it will lead to 1. 2 inputs lead to the same output. So for example, this is an x squared graph, y equal to x squared graph. Yeah, it looks something like that. It's a U-shaped curve. As you can see, if you have 2 x values, it will eventually lead to one y value. So for example of this is, you can see here, negative 3 and 3, it will lead to one same output of 9. So that is many-to-one mapping. And then we come to one-to-many mapping. One-to-many mapping looks like this. So you can see this is a plus minus square root x, but of course x must be positive or is equal to 0. And you can see if we have x is equal to 1, we can have 2 values. We can have negative 1 as our output or 1 as our output. And this is not a function because one input leads to 2 outputs, and that's not our definition of function. So one-to-many mapping is not a function. So this is the graph for y equal to plus minus square root x graph. Yeah. So you can see, if we have one x value, it will lead to a negative value and a positive value of y, which means there will be two y values for one single x value. And the last one, I'm just going to move it up because I don't have space, and that is many to many mapping. So many to many mapping, as you can imagine, is the combination really of many to one mapping and one to many mapping. It looks like that. It's very complicated, I must say. Yeah. So this is plus minus square root of 1 minus x squared. I'm just going to show you the part. So x equal to 0 is a one to many mapping. X is equal to negative 1 and 1 is a many to one mapping. So in combination, it is many to many mapping. Many inputs leads to many outputs. And this is an example of the graph. And it is actually a perfect circle. I'm sorry if I can't produce a perfect circle for you because I'm using a pen. Yeah, this curve looks a bit weird for me. Yeah. Y equal to 1 should be a maximum point for this curve, for this circle. Yeah, so it's not a perfect circle. But anyways, one x value can lead to two y values and one y value. So let's say y equals 0 can lead to x equal to negative 1 and x equal to 1. So one y value can lead to two x values. One x values can lead, one x value can lead to two y values. Yeah, so that is basically the concept of many to many mapping. And one to many mapping and many to many mapping are not functions. Only one to one mapping and many to one mapping are defined as functions. Yep, so that's basically about functions. The next video we are going to talk about domain and range. Domain is the range of vectors that we specifically want to restrict, we want to select, and the range is the y values that we are going to get, we are going to produce. So we are going to see lots of examples in the next video, so stay tuned for that.